Welcome back. I'm Dr. Andrea Ferrero, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon. All videos on this YouTube channel are for informational purposes only, always keeping in mind the importance of trusting your doctor and physiotherapist. If you think my work could be useful to you or others, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with others. Today, we're talking about shockwaves therapy. Extracorporeal shockwaves are a widely used therapy in orthopedics and sports medicine, but they are often misunderstood or presented as a miracle cure. As always in medicine, they are only effective when used for the right indications and with realistic expectations. Shockwave therapy is a non-invasive treatment that uses high-energy acoustic waves, generated by an external device and transmitted to tissues through the skin via a probe. They are not ultrasound, electrical currents, or radiation. They are brief, intense mechanical waves that stimulate a progressive biological response in the tissues. When I say they stimulate a biological response, I mean they don't directly cure the condition for which they're prescribed, but rather activate your body's cellular responses to bring about healing. In short, shockwaves don't do the work for the body, but rather stimulate the body to repair itself. Shockwaves promote the formation of new blood vessels, thus increasing oxygenation and local nutrient delivery. They stimulate the release of so-called growth factors, which are proteins that stimulate cell proliferation, promote cell repair, and modulate inflammation and healing. Furthermore, shockwaves are able to reduce and soften deep scar tissue and, to a greater extent, minor calcifications. Thanks to their ability to modulate inflammation, they can also reduce pain by reducing the sensitivity of nerve endings and modulating pain mediators. The mechanism of action of shockwaves is not to eliminate pain immediately, because, as I mentioned earlier, they have a progressive effect. Shockwaves are not a painkiller. It is important to clarify that shockwaves, they do not generally represent the first-choice treatment, but are only taken into consideration after initial conservative therapies have not given satisfactory results. There are two main types of shockwaves, focal and radial. The choice depends on the pathology being treated, the depth of the affected tissue, and the therapeutic objective. Focal shockwaves, the most powerful, are generally offered only by physicians. To understand the difference between shockwave types, it's helpful to first understand what they actually do. This is a shockwave handpiece. When activated, the machine generates pulses of mechanical energy. Look at what happens to the rice. The grains move. This movement is the mechanical effect of the shockwave. We're not talking about heat. We're not talking about electric current. It's high-intensity acoustic energy that transmits to tissues. Radial shockwaves are the most commonly used, especially because they are the ones found in physiotherapy centers and are generally a good option for treating larger areas and no deeper than 3–4 centimeters from the skin. These shockwaves have lower energy than focal shockwaves, which are not only more powerful, but also have the ability to penetrate deeper, up to 10–12 centimeters from the skin. Focal shockwaves also have a greater effect on the release of nitric oxide, which increases cellular metabolism, stimulates the formation of new blood vessels, stimulates tissue regeneration, and stimulates the release of growth factors, essential for cell repair. Radial shockwaves work more superficially and spread through the tissue like a spreading wave. Focal shockwaves, on the other hand, concentrate the energy in a precise point, deeper down. You can imagine the difference between the two types of shockwaves this way. With radial shockwaves, it's like throwing a stone into water, where the energy spreads progressively and in a less concentrated manner. With focal shockwaves, it's like using a lens to focus the sun's rays on a precise point, so the energy is not only more concentrated, but also travels deeper. Though shockwaves can also be prescribed for acute tendinitis, the main indications are chronic conditions, those in which the tissue is stuck in an inflammatory phase that no longer progresses towards spontaneous healing. Remember what I said before, shockwaves serve to activate your body's normal healing abilities, which in this case are blocked. At the foot and ankle level, they are mainly used for plantar fasciitis, with or without heel spurs, and for pathologies of the Achilles tendon, the posterior tibial tendon, and the peroneal tendons. Another extremely common area of application is the shoulder, particularly for rotator cuff tendinitis. At the elbow, epicondylitis is another classic indication, while in the hip, it can be used for chronic adductor tendinitis and trochanteric bursitis. The knee is also an anatomical region that can significantly benefit from shockwave applications, especially with regard to patellar tendon problems. Interestingly, more and more studies are now highlighting highly positive effects, even for cases of knee osteoarthritis. Another very interesting indication, for which there are several studies in medical literature, is that for chronic lumbar spine pain. It is important to note, however, that shockwaves must be used as part of a more comprehensive approach that may vary from case to case, and in which shockwaves are only part of the proposed therapy. I also want to discuss two less common, but certainly very interesting applications: delayed fracture healing and diabetic foot ulcers. In the case of delayed fracture healing, specific settings can stimulate cells to produce new bone. This is therefore an application worth considering before surgery for non-unions, i.e., fractures that refuse to heal even several months after trauma or bone surgery. Diabetic ulcers are a topic with enormous social impact and enormous healthcare costs. These types of ulcers, characterized by loss of skin and deep tissue, can worsen over time, deepening to the point of involving the bone, sometimes requiring amputation. Therefore, the body must be stimulated to produce new, vital tissue, called granulation tissue, to fill these holes. However, it is important to emphasize that these cases must always be evaluated with a multidisciplinary approach, given that there is always an underlying vascular issue, which may also require surgery to dilate blocked arteries, preventing adequate blood flow to the foot. In addition to the vascular issue, there are also neurological and infection issues. This is why treating these ulcers requires a multidisciplinary approach, which requires more than just an orthopedic surgeon. Other specialists, such as a neurologist, a diabetologist, and an infectious disease specialist, must be involved. As we said before, shockwaves are generally only part of the proposed treatment, which can then include physiotherapy, such as radiofrequency treatments, also called TECAR therapy, laser therapy, therapeutic ultrasound. But let's not forget classic manual therapy. We also offer infiltrations, i.e., injections based on cortisone, hyaluronic acid, or platelet concentrate, also known as PRP. For more information, see other videos on this YouTube channel. The treatment takes place in your doctor's office, with you lying on a bed. There's no need for anesthesia or disinfection of the area being treated because we don't use needles or scalpels. We use a gel to allow the sound waves to penetrate the skin. Only in the case of diabetic ulcers, i.e., skin and soft tissue lesions, will we apply a sterile gel with a sterile cover over the probe to prevent the spread of bacteria to an area already at high risk of infection. The body of the machine, which generates the sound waves, has various adjustments, specifically the frequency of the wave generation, the energy intensity, and the number of pulses, i.e., the number of shocks generated during the treatment. All these settings are important for defining the depth to which the waves can reach, the discomfort or pain the patient may feel, and, of course, they also influence the response of the body's cells. The settings are therefore calibrated for each patient and are not the same for everyone. The intensity usually starts at a low level and gradually increases. It should be noted that the treatment can be painful. During the treatment, you will feel the sensation of something tapping on the treated body part, and at the same time, you will also hear a noise similar to a hammer hitting. This noise is actually the sound waves produced by the machine. Sessions vary from 5 minutes up to a maximum of 12 minutes. Treatment generally involves 1 session per week, or a maximum of 2, in the case of diabetic ulcers, performed a total of 6 times before evaluating the results. Sometimes the 6-session cycle must be repeated. I generally advise against repeating more than 2 series of 6 sessions in a short time. The treatment doesn't necessarily have to be painful. Some discomfort is certainly possible, however. Of course, there are cases where the pain threshold may be lower than normal, or the inflammation is so severe that pain persists throughout the treatment. Occasionally, this discomfort can last up to 2 days and may be accompanied by swelling, redness, or even the formation of a hematoma. Therefore, the ideal course of action, at least for the first few treatments, is to avoid any activities immediately following the shockwave session and rest for a while until the following day. In the following days, the pain may initially worsen before improving. This is a normal biological response. True improvement generally begins after 2 or 3 weeks, with a progressive reduction in pain and an improvement in your ability to perform activities. One of the most common mistakes is expecting immediate results after a single session. Shockwave therapy doesn't work session by session, but over time. To maximize the potential of this treatment, it's best to avoid taking anti-inflammatory drugs such as diclofenac, ibuprofen, naproxen, etoricoxib, celecoxib, ketoprofen, or aspirin for the first 3 days. For the same reason, cortisone should also be avoided, but in the latter case, especially if you're taking it for conditions such as rheumatology, it's best to consult your doctor first. All these medications can reduce the healing ability induced by shockwaves. The session typically lasts from 5 to 10 to 12 minutes. Shockwave therapy also has some contraindications. It should not be used during pregnancy if you have local tumors or if you have bleeding disorders, such as those taking anticoagulants who are at risk of developing a large hematoma. If you take aspirin, there are no contraindications, except that it may slightly reduce the beneficial effect of the shockwave therapy, as it can have an anti-inflammatory effect, as mentioned above. Shockwaves are not included in the benefits covered by basic insurance. It's possible, however, that shockwaves, at least the radial ones, which are the least powerful, are offered in physiotherapy centers as part of the rehabilitation program. Focal shockwaves, administered by a doctor, are unfortunately at the patient's expense unless they have additional insurance coverage that will then cover the costs. In conclusion, shockwaves are not a magic wand. They don't work for all conditions, but when properly administered, they can reduce pain, improve function, and in many cases, avoid repeated injections or surgery. Shockwave therapy is always considered an effective treatment for many conditions, but in the vast majority of cases, it must be part of a more comprehensive approach, complementing other treatments. In particular, it is important to consider reducing or eliminating the main risk factors. In the case of plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendinitis, for example, we often find an associated reduction in calf muscle elasticity, which therefore requires a stretching program. Only in this case can shockwave therapy be truly effective and provide medium and long-term benefits. Precisely in light of what has been said, the advice is always to follow the advice of a doctor who has examined you and who does not simply prescribe shockwaves as if they were a kind of simple painkiller. Thank you very much for your attention, and I thank you even more if you will subscribe to the channel and share my videos if you think they can be useful to other people.